Thank you so much for joining us for our first Magically Live of 2024. We're very excited to get started this year. So, for this one, we'll be talking about accessibility moving into 2024. For those of you who don't know, Magically Live is a series of events that we're hosting in which we'll pick one accessibility topic each time and take a deep dive into it. This is a more general session as we're opening up the year. My name is MagicA11y. I'm an accessibility consultant at MagicEdTech, and today I'm joined by our wonderful Director of Accessibility Services, Tardine.
Hi, everyone. Very good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining our session. As Anjali has already said, this is our first session, so we wanted to do a brush up kind of a thing because we end up skipping few basic items day to day when we actually start with the work. So that's the reason we thought that let's start with this topic and then we can continue with the complex problem statements that we all have in our hand.
Absolutely. So, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You can use the Q&A box for questions in the bottom bar of the Zoom, and we will go ahead and address those questions at the end after we've covered all of our topics. The closed captions are enabled, so to see them, you can select the CC button also on the bottom bar. And the session is being recorded, and we'll share out the recording as well as the deck after the session concludes. So, to start off, we have a quote here. Stepping into 2024, is accessibility still an afterthought? So, this topic or this quote is really to exemplify that accessibility is often considered after the product has already been released. And we want to really encourage that shift left mentality, which, if you're unaware of shift left, we've actually done a session on it that you can find on YouTube. But shift left just means designing and building products with accessibility in mind to create what we call, born accessible products here at Magic. People with disabilities make up a large portion of the population, so it's important that we think about this when developing products so we're not creating more barriers. We'll hop into our agenda for the day. So first, we'll just give a little rundown of what is generally accessibility in case anyone's unaware. Stats around the globe regarding accessibility. We'll explore WCAG, which are the guidelines related to accessibility, some common terms in accessibility, accessibility laws in the UK, EU, and US, and why accessibility matters. All right, so what is accessibility? Accessibility is well, web accessibility means that web tools and technologies are designed and developed so that people with disabilities can use them. Ally is the acronym for accessibility because there are actually 11 letters between the A and the Y. So that's why Ally is, the term that we use most often. And that's why we have entitled this webinar series Magically, which is very fun.
So let's talk about the stats, why accessibility is important and what is our vision. So for sure, we all need to make sure and we understand why this is required. So if you look at the data that is being published, it says that 1 billion people worldwide have disability. So that's what that is there in the stats. But now think about that there could be a possibility that you would have come across a disability that is like a temporary disability, and there are few invisible disabilities that you don't end up seeing actually. But we need to make sure that in any phase of your life, in your career or whatever you are at, everyone should have the access, equal access to whatever you are trying to develop, deliver, or create. So it's important that what we are doing to ensure the compliance, we're ending up covering that 1 billion population and including us. And if you look at the latest data that is being published by UsableNet, last year within US itself, there were 4,000 lawsuits that are being filed. So people are getting aware of their needs, their asks, and it's better. It's not only about the lawsuits, it's about we want it to be competitive. We want it to be born accessible. It will end up saving the lot of cost, effort, and timeline. As Anjali rightly said, is it still an afterthought? So it shouldn't be afterthought because that's what aim is, that we should embed and do the shift left and do it at a right stage.
Alrighty, so what is WCAG? So WCAG are the guidelines that we follow to make products more accessible. So WCAG has four main principles: perceivable, operable, understandable, robust, often referred to as POUR. So perceivable means that we are making sure that everyone can understand all of the elements of design. And operable is making sure that everyone can access using a keyboard. So making sure that you have those tab through functions. Understandable, design should be easy to navigate and read. This means creating visual hierarchy that emphasizes navigation, headings, and content structure. And robust, so ensuring that designs are accessible on different interfaces.
Now let's explore the accessibility, like what are the key factors, what we need to take into consideration. As we all know that we have standard, which is WCAG. So we have 2.2 that is right now released, but people are currently focusing and aiming for 2.1 AA. We have three different levels. We'll be talking in the upcoming slide: A, AA, and AAA. And then as you look at the diagram, we have categorized the key pointers from all the four principles, and we have tagged it as P, O, U, and R. So first, let's talk about video alternatives, why it is important. You need to make sure that people with hearing impairment and visual impairment both have the alternative way to access the video content, either by adding closed captions or by adding audio descriptions. Try ensuring that your text alternative is added to your images. Have clarity, have consistent and clear navigation. Make sure your content, website platforms are accessible using keyboards. Make sure that any content within your sphere doesn't have a flashing content which may end up causing seizures. So avoid that. Then the time-based media needs to be restructured in a different way. Ensure they are compatible. Ensure the navigation is consistent, that the page design and layout doesn't change after every page. So make sure the search is at the top, navigation is defined, landmarks are defined. So that's how the WCAG is structured. We have 50 odd guidelines that will enable you to move towards the journey of compliance, and that too step by step. Moving on to the next slide. Yes, so let's talk about conformance level. We have three different conformance level. Everyone aims to be A and AA. The minimum requirement that stands today is AA. Now, what is A? A is the minimum level, which is almost, I think, 30 odd guidelines that you need to comply to. AA is covering majority of disabilities and ensuring better coverage and compliance. So that's what is being required, and that's what is being requested. AAA is actually beyond what we do, what we deliver. It is to ensure 100% coverage for any type of disabilities at a cost timeline associated to it. So let's move step by step. No one is stopping you to reach at AAA level, but the ask is AA, which actually covers almost of 80 to 85% of the population. And I think that's the best uh, level to be achieved as per the requirements. Moving on to next slide. Over to you,
Alrighty.
Anjali.
As far as types of disabilities, we have visual disabilities, which under that umbrella, we have blindness, low vision, color blindness. Auditory disabilities, within that, there are hearing impairments, deafness, and hard of hearing. Motor disabilities, which involve limitations in physical movements, often affecting the use of hands or fingers. So that's, fine motor skills. Cognitive disabilities, which may affect a person's memory, attention, and or problem-solving skills and reading comprehension. Under this umbrella, we have dyslexia, autism spectrum, ADHD, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. We have speech disabilities, which create some difficulty in producing speech sound, which can affect verbal communication. Invisible or temporary disabilities, which there are a lot that fall underneath this umbrella. And seizures, which are photosensitive or general seizure disorder. All right, so moving into visual disabilities. First, we'll start off with blindness. So, blindness is a sensory disability involving nearly complete vision loss. Some people are completely blind without the ability to see anything, others can perceive light versus dark or the general shape of objects. So, some challenges faced with blindness: blind users rely on screen readers, which transform text into speech or braille displays. Navigation is difficult on inaccessible websites with poorly structured content or which lack alt text for images. For design considerations, so all content must be presented in text or text equivalent so that screen readers can read all of the alt text off of images. We want to use semantic HTML elements for proper document structure. And we want to ensure that keyboard navigation is logical and well structured. For low vision, most eye care professionals use the term low vision to describe permanently reduced vision that cannot be corrected with regular glasses, contact lenses, medicine, or surgery. Some challenges that are faced are that these users with low vision may require larger text, higher contrast color schemes, adjustable font sizes, and unresponsive design and small text can definitely pose difficulties to these types of users. As far as design considerations, we want to support resizable text, ensure good color contrast for text and informative images, ensure responsive layouts for different screen sizes, and unresponsive design and small text, again, can pose difficulties for these users. A person with low vision will typically need magnification to see well, and some people with low vision experience low contrast. So now let's move into color blindness. Pooja, can you move back? Sorry. So for color blindness is a sensory disability that impairs a person's ability to distinguish certain color combinations. Regular green color blindness is the most common form. This condition affects males much more than females, and blue cone monochromy is the most rare form of color blindness, which also affects males much more than females. As far as challenges regarding this, people with color blindness are unable to distinguish between certain color combinations. So when we're thinking about design, we want to avoid conveying information solely through color. We want to use patterns, labels, or other visual cues in addition to that color, and verifying designs with color blindness simulation tools. All right, now we'll talk about some auditory disabilities. Okay. So deafness. Deafness is the total or near total loss of hearing. Challenges faced are that deaf individuals depend on text-based communication or sign language. The absence of captions or sign language interpretation in multimedia content creates accessibility obstacles. And as far as design considerations, we want to include closed captions or sign language interpretation for all video content and ensure that information is conveyed through audio that is also available in text and through visuals. For hard of hearing refers to people with hearing loss ranging from mild to severe who still have some useful hearing. So, some challenges with this are that users with partial hearing may miss audio cues or struggle to understand spoken information without visual assistance. Some design considerations for this: we want to offer visual alternatives like transcripts or subtitles for that information. And we want to allow users to control audio volume and provide visual volume indicators. So a lot of people that are hard of hearing will use the volume on the video, but then we'll also use the closed caption to kind of fill in the blanks where they can't hear those things. All right. Move on. So, motor disabilities. A motor disability is a physical disability that can impede movement, coordination, and sensation. These look different for everybody. So some challenges that are faced are that users with limited mobility may find it difficult to interact with complicated interfaces, particularly those demanding precise mouse movements. Design considerations: we want to ensure that all interactive elements are keyboard accessible and increase the size of clickable targets to accommodate for different pointing devices. And then as far as fine motor disabilities, so fine motor skills are the intricate movements of the hand and wrist, which are used for things like controlling and using objects, producing legible handwriting, getting dressed independently, and many other daily tasks. Some challenges that may be faced with this are that individuals with fine motor difficulties may have difficulty handling small, tightly spaced pieces of complex gestures. For design considerations, we want to make sure that we include features like magnification and voice commands. And we want to minimize the need for precise and rapid mouse movements. And cognitive disabilities. This is not, inclusive of all cognitive disabilities. These are just some examples. So, dyslexia, some challenges that are faced are that people that have dyslexia may struggle with reading and digesting text. Complex design and confusing words can be difficult to read. So, we really want to make sure that we're using simplistic language for these users. Design considerations, we want to use readable fonts and avoid excessive visual clutter, organize content with clear headings and bullet points. And for attention disorders like ADHD, some challenges that may be faced are users with attention disorders may be easily distracted by clutter or animated interfaces. Some design considerations, we want to create clean and uncluttered user interfaces and minimize animations and distractions. Over to you, Tarveen.
So let's about the common terms. The reason we have put in common terms so that you understand if you're starting your journey with accessibility, you would know that why these terms are important. So first terminology that is globally used is WCAG or WCAG. So WCAG is officially published by W3C. All the guidelines are there on W3C website. We have 2.2 as the latest version, and we are hoping to have 3.2 release in next couple of years. Success criteria is a criteria or a scenario that enables you understand how you're gonna meet the requirement, why this criteria is important to ensure compliance. Then we have techniques added against each of the WCAG guideline and a success criteria, which helps you understand how you're gonna comply if you are working on a component or a type of asset that you want to be fully compliant. So these techniques help you understand which implementation will enable you pass the requirement and which implementation will actually be considered as a failure. Moving on to the next slide. Now we have assistive technologies and screen readers. As we know that there are many nth number of screen readers and AT tools, but the common widely used are JAWS, NVDA, VoiceOver, TalkBack, Dragon Speech, Zoom Text. All these tools help cover different type of requirement for different type of users. And we also have trackpads and mouse pads that helps people with motor disabilities end up utilizing the way they want to access. ARIA properties. ARIA is also called as WAI-ARIA, which is Accessible Rich Internet Application. We need to be very cautious that we don't end up overutilizing the ARIA properties. We need to understand where exactly it is required. Sometimes few properties are inherited within HTML, so there's no need to do additional customization and add ARIA to make it compliant. ARIA has its own role to play, and interactive elements need to comply and should be developed with ARIA so that all screen readers can read the content through the DOM and give the proper information to people with disabilities. Moving on to the next slide. Now, as we know that usability and accessibility play a hand-in-hand role. So first one, I'll talk about universal design for learning and its 7 principles. So UDL plays a very vital role when you actually start and when we recommend that shift left so that you start early in the cycle. So once you start reviewing your designs, you will validate your designs against these 7 principles that are being written by Jacob Nelson, which helps you ensure that all the 7 principles like ease of use, no additional effort, and all of that are being followed. You are able to meet the requirement, design it properly, and validate against those 7 principles. Then your journey towards compliance gets very easy. VPAT and ACR, again, they both have a role to play. VPAT is a template that is being officially rolled out by ITIS, and they have all 4 templates related to Section 508, WCAG, International, and EU. They all have different guidelines being listed in a different format, but VPAT gives a report that says that how much compliant you are today for your product. And ACR is actually a journey which shows that you are committed towards compliance. Today you are at X step, but your journey towards the end, you are planning to complete it by X date. That's what your ACR report is. Moving on to the next one. Accessibility laws. As we all know that there are different laws being rolled out across different countries. So there are three category of laws. First one is civil rights, which talk about equal access and inclusion. Second is procurement, which ensures that any purchases, any tool, any stuff related to your ICT requirements, you are ensuring compliance to them. And industry specific laws like telecommunication and air travel laws, which ensures the CVA for communication and ACAA for air travels. So all these laws are connected, and today we are only aiming for WCAG across all, but communication and air travels have their different process that needs to be followed to ensure they comply towards the journey and there is inclusion for all, because these are very critical elements that are being used day to day by everyone. Moving on to the next slide. Let's talk about EU. I know the people across the globe have joined the meeting, so that's the reason we wanted to cover everything. EU have their deadline to ensure that everything that they have is fully compliant by 28th of June 2025. We have a year to go. We should start building and planning our roadmaps to ensure compliance. This is applicable to everyone across the countries and even the UK, and we need to comply to 2.1 level AA standards. Moving on to the next slide.
Alrighty. So
This
we have,
is, go
oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Anjali.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
you're-
ahead, go ahead.
All right. So for accessibility laws within the US, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA as it's more well known, which applies to public facing businesses like restaurants and stores. It's applied to state and local government bodies, private commercial establishments, transportation providers, telecommunication firms, and employment service providers. So this is, just an equal rights act. Section 508 is part of the Rehabilitation Act. It applies to all federal agencies in the United States and ensures that people with disabilities have equitable access to government data, services, and employment opportunities by requiring that all federal electronic information technologies be accessible. Alrighty, and why accessibility matters. So, accessibility isn't an option, it's a necessity for success in the US market. To embrace and unlock opportunities, reach a wider audience, and thrive. So the reason that these are, why it matters is that we have legal requirements regarding accessibility. We have, market size and diversity. So you're opening yourself up to a greater audience when you design in an accessible manner. Competitive advantage, of course, if someone is looking to procure, they are often going to go for the thing that will be more widely adopted. Reputation and trust. This one is really important. I think that we're seeing a very large spike in ethical consumption, and even people that don't have disabilities may be more inclined to, you know, put their money where things are being done ethically. Like I know myself, I definitely consider myself an ally for accessibility. If I have the choice to put my money into something that's designed in an inclusive manner versus a non-inclusive manner, I'm of course going to go for the product that's designed in an inclusive manner. And innovation and growth. It's important moving forward that we're designing accessibly because, again, it's a large portion of the population that we're kind of denying access if we don't. Alrighty, and now we are ready for our QA portion. So you can go ahead and drop any questions that you may have in the Q&A box, and Tarveen and I will go ahead and answer them.
Yes, we'll be happy to assist you on any requirement or any problem statement you have, and we all can discuss about that problem statement. And hope you find this session a very useful session. We are open to hear your feedbacks. And by the time everyone adds the Q&A, we have Pooja, if you can move to the next slide. We are planning to organize our next session on February 27th. The reason we haven't added the topic, we really wanted to have some good inputs from your end so that we can meet your expectations. So any topic that you would like us to cover, please add it in a Q&A or chat, and we'll look into the topic and we'll plan the next sessions accordingly. Please share your inputs.
Yeah, like Charvine mentioned, we really want to make sure that these sessions are useful for all of you. So if there's something that you want to hear about, we are more than happy to take it up and create a session regarding that topic. All right. Anonymous attendee asked, what will the AI role be within accessibility? Charvine, you want to take?
AI, yeah, sure. So we plan to present this session very soon. That was an agenda item, and yes, this is for sure a hot topic, and AI is working really well. It's just that you need to understand which use case you want to pick. For example, AI can help you validate the color contrast for images and content both very with very cost efficient and with the complete accuracy without having manual intervention involved. And then you also have few other checkpoints that can be done through AI, and we will be talking about them in our upcoming session. But yes, AI is moving in a positive direction. It's just that we need to rethink, revalidate what we are trying to achieve.
Absolutely. All right. And Amit said, please explain all WCAG AAA levels for a future session. I believe we've already done one. Let me see if I can find the link for it really quick.
No, we haven't specifically covered AAA guidelines, Anjali. We can surely plan for it and we can talk about it. And Linda also shared that can you do a session on social media? Oh, yes, for sure. We can do that. We can talk about what and how the social media things can be done, how your communications, your collaterals, all of that can be made accessible, and what companies are required to do their end when using the social media. Absolutely. We can talk about all the checkpoints, and social media can be the one pointer that can be covered.
Perfect. And we do have another question from Anita. EAA and ADA/Section 508. My understanding is that EAA will be required for all organizations, government, nonprofit, and for-profit. The US, the ADA applies to all organizations. Section 508 applies to government and educational organizations only, not for-profit, nonprofit organizations. Is the summary correct?
Okay. EA for sure applies to everyone. They have no exception. It is for all e-commerce website, your content, your EPUBs, everything. But ADA applies. So ADA applies, that's a vice versa. ADA applies for government and Section 508 applies for everyone across the globe. So that's how it is.
Perfect. Thank you. And Nancy suggested, what about security and accessibility? I think that would be a great topic to cover.
Yeah, sure, we can talk about it. But can you elaborate, Nancy, what exactly you want to hear when digital security and accessibility hand in hand are being talked? If you can just elaborate, that will surely help us pick this topic. Then we also have one more from, I think it is from Heather. My position is completely different field, but I would like to make sure I'm AA compliant in work I do. What resources would you direct me to? Okay, if you're looking for a support, you want to learn about accessibility, what I will prefer, Heather, and what we follow internally is there is a DHS certification that is free of cost, which helps you understand the requirement in detail, and you can go through that certification. It takes 40 to 60 hours to do, like, complete the WCAG and Section 508 certification, but it is worth investing your time in if you really want to um, get your shoes into accessibility.
And Heather, I also just dropped the website for WCAG, so you can go ahead and reference that as well, because that's a really good resource. Alrighty. Nancy specified and she said if security affects accessibility or if accessibility affects security.
Okay, sure. I don't think that there is a direct correlation between accessibility and security, and accessibility doesn't interfere with your secure content. So accessibility has a different role to play. It's just to ensure that any elements that are there on your website are fully compliant. Hope that answers, Nancy. Okay, I think we are good. Thank you so much, everyone. Really good topics that we have collected from this session, and we're gonna talk about them and plan accordingly. And thank you, Anita, for sharing the link for Heather. This is what I was referring to, Heather.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see all of you at the next Magically Live.
Thank you all. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.